Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Question I get often, especially this time of year in the spring, is well, should I put out eggshells for my birds? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about their need for calcium, their sources for calcium, and if you want to supply an additional source for calcium for your birds, what are the best ways to go about that? And what are the safe ways to go about that? So, first off, the spring. Beautiful red-eyed Vireo up on the screen here, feeding her babies. Well, yes, spring is when especially female birds are in need of calcium. That is why in the spring, many even seed-eating birds like sparrows and others that primarily eat seed actually have to eat, and they eat quite a few insects this time of year because insects are a great source of calcium for birds. Their exoskeleton is made of keratin, which is calcium. This is why their nesting is timed when insect populations are booming. They're first hatching, and there's lots of insects out there. There's caterpillars in the trees, there's beetles, all kinds of insects for them. And so they're pretty easy to find when the weather gets warm. So they time the arrival of their young, the hatching of their young, with when they know insects are going to be available. But so in the late winter, early spring, whenever they're preparing for egg laying and nesting, they can use extra calcium. But there's so many sources of calcium in nature that they switch their diet to. But if you want to provide eggshells, this is what I get a lot of right now. Should I put eggshells out for my birds? Yes, you can do that. Birds have been surviving forever without us putting out extra eggshells for them. Will they eat eggshells they find in the wild? Absolutely. They will do that. And if you want to put them out, yes, you can help. Only if you do it correctly. You don't want to put a bunch of raw eggshells out, like you crack your eggs, set the eggshells over on the, just crush them up and put them outside. You need to take more precaution than that. Now, if you're boiling eggshell, you're doing hard boiled eggs, and you peel the shells off, then those are already okay. What is recommended by the folks who do this, and a lot of this comes, remember, from the pet bird world, where people are their birds are laying eggs, and they're supplementing them with calcium and things like that because they want them to lay extra eggs. Chickens, they're going to keep laying eggs, so that need for calcium is higher. But in songbirds, want to give them a little extra boost, you can, but you want to make sure that your eggshells are washed and cleaned and they're dried, and then crush them up into small pieces, and then you can mix them in a tray with like your mealworms or things like that. So what's recommended is lay them out on a cooking sheet, put them in the oven, and they take about 250, 240 for about 10 minutes. And you don't want to brown them, you don't want to cook them, but you're just wanting to dry them out. Then take them out and crush them up, hammer so that it's small pieces, and then you can mix them in with your bird seed. You can mix them in with your mealworms. You can mix them in, or you can just lay them in a little bowl out there for themselves and see if you see birds actually come to that little bowl of eggshells, or if they pick them up when they're mixed in with other sources. But that mealworm right there is a great source of calcium, and that's where I'm going to go next. If you are already feeding mealworms to your birds, then you're doing the right thing, because insects is where they get a lot of their calcium from, and mealworms are just that, especially live mealworms. Can't emphasize that enough. This time of year, whenever birds are feeding their babies, they're getting live caterpillars because all the guts are still in there and all the nutritional value is still there. Dried mealworms, of course, you're drying them out and you're greatly reducing the nutritional value, but they still are valuable. But you want to make sure you got a water source when you're feeding those. But and of course, I'm always going to talk about native landscaping, and this slide helps illustrate how many insects it takes to raise a brood of babies. One batch of chickadees, 9,000 caterpillars. And they're only getting that from really nature. I know you may get a few of your mealworms, but 9,000, they're having to be able to find those insects and caterpillars up in the trees, oak trees and wild cherry trees, and native trees out there, and even native shrubs and plants, which propagate different kind of caterpillars and moths, and and of course they're able to get those as well. So and remember, they forage very closely to your house. Within 164 feet is what the study showed, that the chickadees within that to their nest is where they forage. So right around you, native landscaping, so important, is really important. And there's lots of ways to do it. We have mealworm cakes that have high value seed in it, as well as mealworms in these cakes, and they can pull those out. And woodpeckers, of course, love these, and my Carolina wrens loves pecking at these little things. And then, of course, we have a seed source that we called, I developed several years ago, called Bluebirds and Friends. And the reason I developed this, the seed mix, is really for right now. I mean, you feed it all year long, but in the spring, whenever the needs are higher, especially for those nesting females. So it's all hulla seed, and this is high nutritional value seed. This is not cheap bird seed, and I've got whole videos on that, and I can put a link into it so you can look through that. But this has sunflower kernels chopped up. It has small peanut pieces in it, a little bit larger peanut pieces in it. It's got little suet nuggets in it, which are a great source. Suet is really, really good for birds, and nutritionally valuable with calcium in it as well. And of course, the dried mealworms you see all in there pecking through. So that's a real good value mix. And then high value, suet is high value, mealworms are high value, fruit is high value this time of year. So high value live mealworms. And then if you want to supplement with those crushed eggshells, you can do it. That does, at this time of year, will help more than any other. So it's a great idea for a program. And thanks for that request. Like I said, we want to talk about what you want us to talk about. So yes, you can provide crushed eggshells for birds to help them with their calcium needs in the spring. Do it correctly. Make sure you take the extra time and care to prepare them, dry them out, make sure they're clean, wash them, dry them out, and bake them in the oven if that's what works for you. Some people use the microwave just to get them dried. You're not cooking them, though. You're just drying them. Crush them up in small pieces and mix it in. Mix them in into your birdseed mixes, with your mealworms, or just in the bowl to themselves. They can all, and if you do it right, you can't hurt them for sure, and then you can only help them out. So it's that extra step that people who care for birds can take to help them out. So again, thanks for the idea for the program. Send in more ideas, because I want to talk about what you want me to talk about. If you hadn't subscribed yet, please do. Give us a like, give us a share. And until next time, let's talk birds.